I saw a study a little while back. I actually asked my registered dietitian about it, and she had no idea what I was talking about. But you seem like the guy to ask. So the study said something about like um, foreigners coming to the U.S. And I think the phrase that they had used was after they spent it was like a year plus in the U.S. that their microbiome they used something like the word destroyed, but I think you would probably characterize it thinking about what you said so far, it's probably changed rather than destroyed. Um, do you know what I'm talking about? First of all, but if these people also gained a significant amount of weight, which may or may not have to do with their microbiome, but what like the implication seems to be that there's something bad about the US that makes people gain weight. Is kind of where it seemed like this study was, or the author who was citing the study was trying to point to.
Hmm.
If you know what I'm talking about, like
Yeah.
what would you do with those people, I guess, to try to make them not overweight anymore?
Yeah. Well, fortunately for them, it's not just coming to the US, right? It's their lifestyles when they get to the US.
Hmm.
So if you think about, someone maybe was a foreigner, how they were getting to work, uh, transportation probably going to be different. They might have gone from walking or in Boston even. I would, either ride the bike or take the T.
Hmm.
Now I live in Georgia. Public transportation's horrendous. Uh, the roads, there's no bike lanes. And so
Hmm.
I sit in the car every day for 20 minutes to get to and from work.
Yeah.
So if you think about that every day, right, throughout the year, the activity pattern's different. That's going
Hmm.
to influence intestinal transit time, or said in other words, how quickly food moves through my gut. So that's going to
Hmm.
have profound implications for the bacteria in my gut. Another probably more obvious one is just the differences in what they're eating nutritionally, right? So they're going from diets that are probably pretty rich in whole foods, things that are nothing is really processed and high in fiber, and fiber in particular is one of the nutrients that is emerging as fantastic for the bacteria in our gut, and that encourages the growth of many healthy bacterial species. They come to the US, they're busy, right? They're driving, and where do they stop for dinner? KFC.
Hmm.
Not anything wrong with KFC or Cookout or Wendy's, and so they're eating these diets that are really high in saturated fats
Hmm.
and very low in fiber and vegetables and fruits. And so what's that doing? It's changing the composition of the gut bacteria. We're going to promote the growth of species that are not good for you, species that are going to cause things such as leaky gut, which is going to trigger systemic inflammation and chronic disease, um, and just bacterial species that are associated with all other sorts of adverse health consequences. So fortunately, it's not moving to the U.S., right? But the lifestyle changes that accompany that move to the U.S. So
Hmm.
I think it's more a lifestyle and behavioral modification associated with living in a sedentary country like this.
Yeah. And I mean, that's great to hear too. Just like I said, it's stuff like that pops up and you're like, okay, I don't think that's actually the case. It's like we were saying earlier, it's that misattribution of the results from a study for a
Causality,
particular,
right?
right,
What's
a
what's
particular narrative of whatever they want to sell, whatever that narrative is. So it's like you got to find the person who actually knows what's going on to try to like clarify things.
yeah.
Um, I'm like watching the clock because I know you got a student coming in
Oh,
here.
that's okay. He'll be.
Um,
He's getting to take the quiz early, so
just trying to make sure we're on time because I know, I watched your lecture was 50 minutes, and I'm like, we could probably be on call for 3 hours if we like really wanted to deep dive into everything. So I'm like, trying not to go too deep, but get enough information.
yeah.
Um, so I'm kind of curious, like how with the research you do, figuring out all this, does that inform in any way how you train or how you train the athletes that are under you?
It does. The microbiome stuff, somewhat. Again, I'm not a registered dietitian, so I try to stay away from too much nutritional advice.
Okay.
But I do like a lot of the stuff I've learned in school, and I even teach a sports nutrition class. So, like the recommendations I'll give to the athletes I coach for uh, carb loading, for example, going into an event, or even how much to eat or to drink, or when they're out training and racing, those kinds of things will definitely inform my coaching. Right now, I'm doing a study. One of my master's students is super interested in thermoregulation, so
Hmm.
the effect of temperature and humidity on performance. And I live in Savannah right now, right? And so
Hmm.
obviously, basically live in the jungle. And so she was like all interested in doing this really long training study, and I was like, listen, that's not going to be possible. But one of the things I find with the athletes I coach is some of them from time to time, their numbers outside versus inside are just so different. And they get on the trainer and all of a sudden they can't get close to the powers they're putting outside.
Right.
And then I'll just ask them the seemingly obvious question, are you using a fan?
Hmm.
And they're like, no. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. Uh, and so like we're doing a study right now comparing physiological responses to training with and without a fan.
Hmm.
Just like a single session. And so that's kind of like a cool master's thesis project.
Are
This,
you like are you quantifying like the speed of the fan, like how much airflow there is?
yeah, we have an anemometer which measures
Okay.
speed, and so we're using the fan at a set wind speed versus just doing the session without the fan.
Okay.
But at the same, we're keeping heart rate fixed between the sessions. And so
Okay.
we're looking at how much theoretically, what's the difference in how much work you can do, and then what is the metabolic implications of that. So we're measuring blood lactate between the two to see if that has any effect.
Okay.
We're looking at oxygen consumption, caloric expenditure, perceived exertion, whole sundry of measures. So
Right. One thing I'm always interested about in like with exercise studies is how do you control for levels of fatigue between training sessions in a study?
yeah, so fortunately, this is just a three time point study. They do a max test and they come in and have two training sessions. You know, doing things like making sure it's same day of the week and same time of day for chronobiological control helps.
Hmm.
We tell them not to exercise for 24 hours prior.
Okay.
But besides that, I mean, you know, you can only control so much of someone's life. So if
Right.
you do something like go see the Avengers the night before and they come in and they slept 3 hours, you know, that's just, I mean, you can only tell them so much, right? Um,
Yeah.
and so you just part of that is getting enough participants that
That's what I
hopefully
was gonna say. I was like, sample
that kind
size
of
should
noise cancels
hopefully,
out.
yeah, it's like you get, if your sample size is 40 versus your sample size is 1,000, that should hopefully smooth out a lot of those variations. I I don't clearly conduct a lot of like primary research myself, though I had some classes and a little bit of experience with it for my psychology degree. Um, so it's psychology and math, the oddest combination ever. Um, but so it's like sometimes I think about that stuff and then I don't think all the way through it. But like I said, it just kind of just always strikes me because I know, I could we'll with my coach we'll do the same training session, and I have a two up, one down periodization block, and we can do it, you know, two blocks back to back. Say we'll do the exact same block, just 2-1, the next 2-1, and I could have, a really nice increase, or for some reason maybe I'm extra fatigued, and like the second time, which should be better, because you should have that bump after that recovery, it's just not.
Yeah,
So I'm like, anytime I see the exercise studies and then the N number is really low, I'm like, oh, okay, you didn't have that many participants. Like, did you control for all those things? How do you control for all those things? So I didn't know if there was like
yeah. One
a method or something you could
exercise
do.
exercise is so potent though, right? That
Yeah,
sometimes you don't need a huge N.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yeah, and man, getting subjects is hard. No one would be graduating with their master's degree if I made them get too many subjects. But yeah, we try our best.
You need 1,000 people to do a VO2 max test on the treadmill, and then from there, yeah, that would be
Yeah, ride for 40 minutes on a very hard bike seat.
gonna be
At
tough.
150 heart rate, it's like it was pretty hard, you know. Yeah, we do our best.
Yeah, so did you meet have you met Todd Buckingham?
Yeah,
I was assume so. I was like he was gathering all of his data from people at the national championship, which I thought was a clever way to try to get a larger sample size.
yeah. That's clever.
um, so I want to follow up with something that went on with you personally. I read that you had a small labral tear in your hip.
Yep, still
You got
do. So
cortisone.
so
Yeah,
do you.
no
So do you
surgery. You got the
probably.
cortisone injection.
Yeah.
So how are you doing now? Still
Uh,
doing okay?
Pretty good. Yeah, it was. Funnily enough, I guess like Todd has one too. I don't know if he told you that.
Yeah, I know.
And yeah, I had a lot of friends have them before, and so when I felt it going into Kona, I was like, this is what it is. And fortunately, I didn't go get it looked at until after. And I thought I was probably done. Um, and then I actually got in touch with a couple physical therapists who do a bit more research. There's a lady named Lindsay Plass actually who reached out and told me about her experience with it and all the research she does. There's a guy named Mike Ryman at Duke who's a PT and a PhD.
Hmm.
Um, and they've done a lot of research comparing operative versus non-operative treatment of labral tears in athletes. And it seems the data would suggest right now that there's really no better uh, end result with getting surgery for these labral tears than there is just using physical therapy and not doing operative therapy for it. Like the end result, 6 months, 1 year after the fact, is usually about the same between the two groups. Um, so after that, I was pretty set on not getting surgery, and I actually went to Atlanta to see like one of the best people in the country for it. And he goes, "Yeah, man, just try a cortisone shot and see how it works." That seemed to have settled it down. I've actually done some dry needling, which very unscientifically I could not tell you the merits of, but it seemed to help. Um, and yeah, it's pretty good for now. So I think knock on wood,
Yeah.
it'll
I'm al-
stay.
it's like it's just like it seems to be so common, and I know I my girlfriend had just gotten into running, and she'd only been running for a year, and it happened to her. She did end up doing the arthroscopic surgery, and she doesn't come from like an athletic background, so um, that's one of the things I'm interested in too, just on a personal level, is like the difference between athletes that have it and come back, which seem to have like a greater resiliency since you already have like the musculature and stronger ligaments and like all of that from a history versus somebody like her who, you know, didn't come from an athletic background and was kind of getting into it and then got derailed.
Yeah,
Uh,
the funny thing is, so I don't know if you've heard this, but 75% of people asymptomatic, if they were put in an MRI machine, it would be found that they have a labral tear.
mhm. Yeah, I saw
So
some stat
75%
like it's
of the
like real
population is,
high.
yeah. Um, so yeah, it's interesting. It's a good money maker for the orthopedists.
Yeah. Um, as I told you, I was trying to set up a time to chat with Richard, and I was trying to get some intel on you, something I couldn't find from your Instagram.
Uh-huh.
And Richard told me you have a baby on the way. Is that
Yeah, in August. So we're really
so? So does that mean no more training, just
uh,
total baby time, or what's going to happen once the
yeah,
baby's here?
my wife wouldn't like me as a person if I wasn't doing any training.
Okay.
Um, no, I'll still be training, but it's going to be my sessions are going to have to be very high quality and a little bit lower quantity. I've never been a big proponent of big training. When I did Kona, I think I pushed myself too much, and I was doing about 17 hours a week, and I think that was way too much for me.
Hmm.
I tend to thrive off 10 to 12 with the occasional 13 or 14-hour week. And so when baby comes, I think it's going to be more, probably more that 8 to 10 window.
Okay.
I don't mind waking up at 4 in the morning, although I may already be
I was
up.
like, you may already be up. That's what I was thinking.
um, but it's definitely put triathlon it's kind of nice because it, you know, kind of puts life into perspective a bit for me.
Hmm.
Um, it's more important obviously than work or triathlon. So
Yeah.
um, I think it's probably good. That's going to be a change.
This is something I see around here a lot, so I think this is kind of the most important question. Are you going to get a running stroller and be that
Oh,
guy?
for sure. I don't know if you saw the lady who ran the 121. I guess she set the record.
Uh-uh.
121. It was like 6 months or 8 months after she gave birth. Ran a 121 with this Thule stroller. So it's like already been decided upon, right? That's the one we're gonna get. But I guess you can't even run with them until they get like a little bit older because you don't want to shake them around.
Right, right. You get the neck stability. You can't just like strap them in
Yeah,
and go for it.
yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, definitely gonna, not sparing any expense when it comes to stroller purchases. That's like I think like a next goal, right? It's like, well, done Boston, done Kona. Now I want to like win a 5K with a stroller.
You outright win.
Savannah's not overly competitive.
Okay. Okay. So you're gonna go hunting for one and figure out like, all right, normally maybe I'd run a 15. I can think I could do a 16:30 with the stroller.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try to like, sabotage the one guy who I know.
Well, I think if you put helmet on the baby, assuming we got neck stability, put a helmet on the baby so nothing's gonna go wrong. You just use the stroller as like a bumper car almost, and just like start taking out people's legs from
Yeah.
behind.
Yeah.
They'll either have to go out harder and then they'll gas themselves, or they'll just decide to get behind you and
I have a pretty
stay in line.
rambunctious dog, so I'll just fix her to the front of the stroller.
That could work
We'll
too.
be a force to be reckoned with. People are going to be tripping all over us.
I hope you put that on your Instagram. That'll be pretty
Yeah.
interesting to see.
Yeah. I don't know what the wife would think about that,
It's
but
like get your wife at like the finish line with you got have like the whole, I'll call it a train at this point, since we've got you and the baby and the stroller and the dog. The train coming through with the finish line and the time clock.
yep, yep, yep. Yeah. So, but yeah.
So you listen to Chris's episode, so I ask everybody this question, because, it's particular to you because you study the gut, but it's universal to eat food. So I'm always curious, what if everybody had one food they could eat for recovery for the rest of their life, only one food, what would you choose?
Oh man. Oof. Probably. I mean, am I allowed to just give you like a genre, like Mexican, or does it have to be?
No, yeah, like is it a burrito? Is it a taco? Are you eating like a chimichanga? Are you eating Tex-Mex? Are you eating authentic Mexican? Like what? You got to give me something a little more specific.
It'd definitely be a burrito with a nice beer.
Okay, so that's okay. It's like I said, it's always curious just because I feel like you read all these articles and everybody says, oh, you should eat this or you should eat that, but at least so far with my interviews, it's like everybody has a little more mundane answer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the best thing for recovery, hands down, would be chocolate milk, which I'd follow it up with some ice cream or a milkshake. Um, but chocolate milk is undoubtedly the best thing for recovery if you're looking just from a health perspective.
Yeah.
Um, you're replenishing glycogen and repairing muscle, so it's the two for an
Yeah,
action.
I had Dr. Jason Karp on, and he was, as far as I remember, he's one of the original people that did the study to show that chocolate
The
milk
chocolate
actually
milk
had that
from
efficacy.
James Madison.
Huh?
From James Madison.
I'm not sure.
Okay, because the chocolate milk study I think was done by Mike Saunders at James
Okay.
Madison.
I guess that's what he had said something about that, and I may be misquoting him. I'd have to go back to his episode, but I know he
No, there
said,
is. It's called the chocolate milk study, I think, in PubMed.
yeah, I feel like he said he was either a part of that or did. It's been 2 months since I spoke to him, so it's
Where
like
is he? Do you know?
he lives in San Diego,
Okay.
um,
Oh,
but I don't know, he's a big running guy. He's written like 8 books and
I should
does
know
all
who.
this research and
Whoops.
there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people. I mean, as we know, people are very interconnected, but there's also like these people just outliers, or you're like, I should know that person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
But yeah, functionality is the chocolate milk. But if I'm just trusting my gut, the burrito is hard to beat.
Solid. All right, Greg. If people want to follow you so they can make sure they are not being lied to by pop articles, where can they find you?
Yeah, so it's Dr. Greg Grosicki on Instagram and Twitter.
Good deal. Thanks for coming on today, Greg.
I appreciate it. Yeah, good talk to you, Jesse.